He was one of the most controversial leader in Africa who got into his country leadership through a coup in 1969. After he got to the power, his rule was marked by his controversial policies, anti-Western rhetoric, and efforts to promote pan-Arab and pan-African unity. His supporters credited him with modernizing Libya, improving living standards, and making the country an influential African and Arab power, while his critics saw him as an authoritarian ruler who abused human rights and participated in international terrorism. In today's episode, we will be talking about Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi was born in 1942. His exact date of birth is disputed, but it is often cited as June 7th. In Qasr Abu Hadi, a rural area outside the town of Sirte, Libya, which was then an Italian colony. His parents were Aisha bin Niran and an Abu Meniar who belonged to the Gaddafi tribe, a small and historically marginalized group. As a child, he attended a local Islamic school and later started his elementary and secondary education. Growing up, Gaddafi witnessed significant events affect the Arab world. This included the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, the Egyptian Revolution of 1952, and the Suez Canal crisis of 1956. These events left many in the Arab world desperately looking for a leader who could stand strong and defend them. On 23 July 1952, a military coup by the Egyptian nationalist Free Officers Movement, led by Mohammed Naguib and future Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser, overthrew King Farouk and established an Egyptian republic. After Gamal Abdel Nasser got into Egyptian leadership, he started rejecting and going against Western policies. This included the 1956 nationalization of Suez Canal, which was owned and controlled by Britain and France. This action of nationalizing the Suez Canal led to the 1956 Suez Canal crisis. In this crisis, Britain, France, and Israel joined together to fight Egypt. However, after the crisis threatened to become wider war in the region, Britain, France, and Israel withdrew from the war, and Egypt retained the canal. The action brought great admiration for Nasser among Egyptians and across Arab world. Among the people who were influenced most by Nasser actions was the young Gaddafi, who used to listen to Cairo-based radio voice of the Arabs. From this point on, Gaddafi developed great admiration for President Gamal Abdel Nasser and started trying to emulate him to bring the same kind of changes in his country. Libya was under the leadership of King Idris, who was accused of high levels of corruption and close links with Western nations. Though Gaddafi wanted to bring these changes to his country, he did not have a plan or capability to do so. However, after he came across a book written by his hero Nasser, Philosophy of the Revolution, Gaddafi was handed a blueprint of what he needed to do next. The book outlined how to initiate a coup. According to the book, to initiate a coup, you must have an army, a thing which Gaddafi did not have, but Gaddafi already had in mind what he had to do. After he finished his secondary education, Gaddafi joined University of Libya in Benghazi. However, he did not finish his university studies because he had a more important mission to accomplish. He dropped out of university and enrolled in a military academy in Benghazi, where he was able to influence several like-minded friends who were willing to go along with his plan. Gaddafi secretly established a free officers movement in the army in preparation for his anticipated coup of King Idris. In August 1965, Gaddafi graduated from the military academy, and he was assigned duty as communication officer in the army. In April 1966, he was assigned to the United Kingdom for further military training. After finishing his 9 months further training in United Kingdom, he moved back to Libya, and he was promoted to the rank of captain. As soon as Gaddafi returned back to Libya, he started putting plans to overthrow Idris' government in action, together with his free officer movement, which had grown to a bigger number. On 1 September 1969, while Idris was receiving medical treatment in Turkey, Gaddafi, then a 27-year-old captain, and his military group, Free Officers Movement, in an operation dubbed Operation Jerusalem, occupied airports, police stations, radio stations, and government offices in Tripoli and Benghazi. When Libya woke up in the morning of 2 September 1969, the monarch government of Idris had been overthrown in a bloodless coup, and Gaddafi was their new leader. Most Libyans received the coup positively because they were tired of Idris' leadership. Idris' government was very unpopular among the citizens of Libya. This was mainly because of his close links with Western powers, allowing the United Kingdom and United States to open military bases in the country. There was also rampant corruption in the oil industry, with much of the money going to Idris' family, while most Libyans remained in poverty. Consequently, Libyans were looking for a leader who could make their life better, and probably that's why Gaddafi coup was received positively. After taking over the leadership of his country, Gaddafi formed a 12-member Central Committee of the Free Officers Movement, who proclaimed themselves the Revolutionary Command Council RCC, which was basically the government of the new republic. Lieutenant Gaddafi became the RCC chairman, and therefore the de facto head of state. He also appointed himself to the rank of colonel in becoming commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Gaddafi also appointed Jalloud, who was his classmate and a member of Free Officers Movement, to the position of prime minister. After organizing his government, he changed Libya's administrative capital from Al-Baida to Tripoli. After assuming power, Gaddafi quickly moved to nationalize Libya's oil industry, which dramatically increased state revenues and allowed for major public investments in infrastructure, education, and healthcare. He also expelled U.S. and British military bases and ordered the closure of foreign companies. Inspired by Nasser's ideology, he attempted to unite Libya with other Arab nations, including Egypt and Syria, but these efforts failed. His rule became increasingly authoritarian, with political dissent being harshly suppressed. In 1977, Gaddafi introduced his unique political philosophy, outlined in the Green Book, advocating a system called Jamahiriya, state of the masses, in which power theoretically resided with local committees. In practice, however, he retained ultimate control. During his leadership, Libya became increasingly involved in supporting revolutionary movements and militant groups around the world, including the Irish Republican Army, IRA, Palestinian groups, and various African insurgencies. Internationally, Gaddafi was a polarizing figure. He supported various revolutionary movements and was implicated in several acts of terrorism, including the 1988 Lockerbie bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Scotland, which killed 270 people, in the 1986 Berlin discotheque bombing, which killed U.S. soldiers. This attack led to retaliatory attacks by U.S. in Libya in an operation dubbed Operation El Dorado Canyon. Gaddafi's adopted daughter was reportedly killed in these bombings. Gaddafi's involvement with terrorism led to international sanctions against Libya. Throughout the 1990s, Libya remained isolated as a pariah state, suffering from economic sanctions and diplomatic ostracism. Due to the effects of harsh sanctions that were imposed on his country, Gaddafi was forced to change his way of leadership. In 1999, Libya handed over 2 suspects for trial in connection with the Lockerbie bombing and paid compensation to the victims' families. In 2003, Gaddafi agreed to abandon Libya's weapons of mass destruction program, leading to improved relations with Western nations. The U.S. and European countries lifted sanctions, and Libya re-entered the global economy. While everything seemed to be going well for Gaddafi in Libya, a big wave was about to come, and his leadership was going to be put to an end. It all started on 17 December 2010, when a Tunisian man called Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire to protest harassment by Tunisian authorities. His death led to large-scale protests that forced Tunisia leader from power. This action led to the start of a wave in Arab world that was named the Arab Spring. This wave closed border to Libya, where the masses were against Gaddafi oppressive rule. What started as just a protest quickly turned into a civil war in February 2011. With the support of NATO forces, the Anti-Gaddafi National Transitional Council, NTC, successfully overpowered Gaddafi's military, leading to the collapse of his regime. Forced into hiding, Gaddafi became a fugitive, constantly on the move to evade capture. He eventually sought refuge in his hometown of Sirte, where he was discovered hiding in a tunnel by NTC militants. On October 20th, 2011, Gaddafi was captured and killed, marking the end of his 42-year rule over Libya. Gaddafi ruled Libya for 42 years, making him one of the longest-serving leaders in modern history. His legacy remains deeply controversial. To his supporters, he is credited for modernizing Libya, improving living standards, and making the country an influential African and Arab power, while his critics condemns him for his involvement with international terrorism and running an oppressive regime. Since his death, Libya has struggled with instability, militia violence, and political fragmentation.